Oh, yes. Nothing.
Hare Krishna. So, yeah,
Sort of, kind of, maybe.
sort of, kind of.
Okay, let me increase the sort of. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, oh yeah, Hare, something's wrong. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Hare Hare. I don't know why. It's very low, right? Yes? Not so
Yeah,
loud.
it's it's good enough.
It shouldn't be like this. I think maybe because I put this on, I'm going to leave and come back. I think it'll be better. Don't go anywhere. The show will continue. Hare Krishna. All right. Hare Krishna. It may not be any better, but it's closer. I can speak louder.
Hare Krishna. It's good.
My computer it's got a mind of its own. It does what it wants, when it wants, how it wants. Some days it's louder. Today it's lazy. So we're going to continue reading. I just have to bring up the document. I was working on our humility course that we're going to give in 3 weeks. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvise Sunyavari Paschatya Satarine Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhuvyeva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangulangayate girim yakrapatam aham vande Sri Guru Dinatari. Okay. This is entitled Prabhupada Answers All His Letters. I don't remember if we've read it, but as usual, we'll find out if we remember. It is interesting to note that I received a reply from Srila Prabhupada to every letter I wrote him. After around 1972, we were asked not to write to Srila Prabhupada. But because I had previously been I'm correcting as we're writing. However, since I had previously written to Prabhupada monthly as the temple president of Vancouver, I felt he wouldn't mind if I wrote to him occasionally. Even when I wrote to him with stupid problems or dumb requests, he would take the time to patiently answer. Okay, let's see what Grammarly says we should say. Even when I wrote to him with stupid problems or dumb requests. They want to change it to trivial problems. No, they were stupid. Or dumb requests. He would take the time to answer me and dispel my ignorance patiently. Or, as Grammarly says, patiently dispel my ignorance. All you editors are now out of a job. We don't need you. It shows how much he cared for his disciples and how much he took care of them. He felt duty-bound to answer every letter that any disciple wrote him, no matter the contents. Isn't that amazing? So Prabhupada had a time, he had a time every day when he answered his mail. Did you know that? He had a very regulated schedule. And I believe it was after breakfast. So, because he was so regulated and he was so able to control himself that he could flow into this regulation when he traveled. So, it shows, to me, it shows how much he took his service as duty. I mean, you know how much, we know how duty-bound Prabhupada is, right? Because he followed the order of his guru. So, it was the same thing with his letters. It was so like that's his service, so he's going to do it. I'm just closing some windows so I can go back and forth between seeing you and seeing what I'm reading. So just give me a second here. I've got 7 windows open. Hare Krishna. Okay. So we've given you a priority. It's just you and the document and nobody else in between us. Hare Krishna. Okay, so I have to make some notes. So this shows how dutiful Prabhupada is. And how he took his service as guru very seriously. We mentioned in the last class how he would answer letters even if he had already answered the questions previously. And he would say, I already answered the question. And he would say, but since you are asking, who knows what he would say? But since you are, I've already answered this in another letter, but since you are asking, blank, what did Prabhupada say? Who knows? Because I mentioned this in another class. But since you are asking, it is my duty to answer you. Wow. I've already answered this question. These answers should be distributed, or you should know these things. Yeah. Kind of the same thing. You should know because I already answered it. But since you're asking, it's my duty to answer you. Hare Krishna. Even though we were, whatever we were, I don't want to say what we were, but we weren't. We weren't top quality. We weren't the creme de la creme. We were more like the mud of the dirt, And I'm speaking for myself. I can't say that about others, but in general, we were diamonds in the rough. Let's look at it that way, right? Dirty diamonds. Yeah, you can write a poem. I was a dirty diamond and my guru polished me up. So we were diamonds in the rough, and I wrote some really stupid, that's why I said stupid letters. What kind of, you're wondering, what kind of stupid letter did you write? I didn't only write one stupid letter. I wrote the stupid letter. Prabhupada gave the answer. And I said, okay. And like a year later, I didn't like the answer. So a year later, I wrote the same stupid letter. So, I mean, you can be forgiven for one stupid letter, but you write the same stupid letter twice, then you're like, you are definitely a diamond in the rough. So, but Prabhupada answered both letters. Like he took the time. And I think there were like 3 really bad letters, 2 or 3. And then other devotees were involved with my stupid activities that were being affected. So he wrote them so they wrote him and he wrote them back. Like he was dealing with a lot of trivial stuff. But isn't that interesting? But he didn't want to deal with it. He didn't like to deal with it. But he did because he felt it was his duty. Yeah. So, isn't that interesting? He might be thinking when he reads the letter, say, why are my disciples writing me all these stupid letters? And obviously he was thinking that way, And eventually, he had secretaries who would answer the letters. Did you know that? He would sign it, but and he would have this, but the secretary wrote the letter and it would read it to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada would say, okay, or Prabhupada would say, tell him this, the secretary would write it, Prabhupada would see it and sign it. Yeah, so we didn't have to disturb, because a lot of it was just simple stuff. All right. Okay. Hare Krishna. Any questions on this? Your question was, what kind of stupid letter did you write? You want to know. Well, I asked Prabhupada if I could take sannyas. I was 24. And I had a son who was a year old. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, he was a year old. Good idea, right? Leave your son and wife and take sannyas. Leave your wife with a 1-year-old and no money, of course. I didn't have any money. Our rent was, we had a studio apartment. Our rent was $90 a month, which I could pay. Juliana's like, where's that apartment? I want it. Yeah, that was 1972. Too late now, everyone. Things were affordable then. Not like now. That was, yeah. So, yeah, so totally irresponsible. And Prabhupada patiently answered the letter. And then a year later, I said, Prabhupada, I can't deal with it anymore. Can't I just take sannyas? And he said, well, if you want to be renounced, just, be Vanapras. Don't have any children and just wind it down. This is kind of a young age for Vanapras, 24. But, he was dealing with crazy people. And who didn't understand themselves, who didn't, you're 24, you're 74, you got 50 more years on you, so you can look back from experience, but you're 24, you don't have that much experience to evaluate what life is going to be like. So that's what Prabhupada was dealing with, people who had no experience. Hridayananda Maharaj jokes, he said, the male brain matures at like 27 or 28, fully matures, right? And he took sannyas in 72, so he was 23. So he said, I took sannyas 5 years before my brain really matured, or you could say 5 years before my brain worked, I took sannyas. So that's what Prabhupada was dealing with. And so naturally, we would disturb him by our immaturity, materially and spiritually. And when I think of those letters, I think, obviously I think that was dumb that I write it, I shouldn't have bothered him. But I was kind of emotionally I was frustrated like anything. And I was just artificially renounced, adversion. I called it, the adversion I translated as renunciation. It was adversion, it wasn't renunciation. Prabhupada, of course, knew that. And so I regret having done that, but I did it. But it helps us to see how merciful Prabhupada is. Isn't it? Like, wow, so patient, kind, patient, right? And it wasn't even like now, if you have a guru who's got thousands of disciples, you might write a letter and not get a reply, and you won't even know if he saw the letter or got the letter. So that makes it even more amazing that Prabhupada answered every letter. And when you like, if you have a guru with lots of disciples, you write a letter, you're not sure. You're not even sure he's going to see it or respond or have time to read it if he does see it. And with Prabhupada, every letter we wrote, we knew we were going to get a reply. It was like no question, right? So that's amazing. Just meditate on that for a minute while I write something down. I guess we should just have Zoom AI take the notes for me, right? Okay. Anyone have any thoughts on this? I guess one thing we can do is, reflect on how duty-bound we are. Because we all probably, when we get busy, forget to answer. We may miss a correspondence and just don't answer it. You read it, oh, I'll answer later, then it goes down, to the bottom of the pile of emails or WhatsApp messages or whatever. You ever done that? Forget to answer? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you can all reflect on, when you didn't do something that you said you were going to do, or you have a duty, but you didn't really live up to it. So Prabhupada took his duty so seriously. It's such a good example, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Such a good example for us to take our duty seriously. If the guru takes his duty seriously, then so should the disciple, right? Yeah, so that's an impetus for the disciple to take his position seriously when the guru takes it seriously. When the guru takes your spiritual life seriously, it's an impetus for you to take it seriously, right? Should be. Okay, I'm just writing that down. Okay. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare. Something in the chat. Let's go to the chat. You know what they say, chat and be happy. So let's see what's in the chat. As a strong writer of emails with stupid problems, Your Grace would know that. Could you, Grace, please tell us examples of the problems which made Your Grace ask? Yeah, I already did. That was basically, generally most devotees wanted to write Prabhupada with good news of their preaching if they wrote him. And it was only if somehow they couldn't solve their problem, or they didn't have faith in that anybody could solve their problem, or they felt that Prabhupada was the only one who could arbitrate a situation, they would write him. But the problem was in the beginning of the movement, we didn't know anything. So there's so many questions we asked Prabhupada, because there was only a few books. So we had to ask him. And I think that's why he felt duty-bound, because we didn't know so much.
How can you discern between a stupid question and a good question?
In our studio audience, we have a question. How do you know the difference between a stupid question and a good question? I guess if you have a doubt, you probably should not send it right away. I was just about to say something. I think I'll answer your question. If you look at my website, well, we have a website, and we have the app, which has like 7 courses or something on it, and then we have SoundCloud and YouTube channel. Of course, it's well, this solves the whole problem of writing stupid letters. Just go to AI, get your AI companion or whatever what do they call it? Just, AI says, ask me a question. Say, what does Srila Prabhupada say about this? What does Mahatma Das say about this? I have a question for Mahatma Das. What would he say? And maybe you'll get the answer, and then, I can just go back to sleep, something like that. Try it. I actually did it the other night. What does Mahatma Das say on japa? And it was like 85%. And maybe it was 100%. It's not what I stress. They said some things I don't stress anymore. But it's a good tool. ChatGPT, I have a problem, with this person. He's a devotee, he's senior, I should respect him, but he does things that are not respectable. What would Mahatma Das say about that? See what comes up. Maybe we can write a whole book, and we'll call it ChatGPT Speaks Out for Mahatma Das. Anyway, AI is getting so good and sophisticated, I'm sure it's probably going to be extremely accurate, but that's, of course, the line will get blurred between what I said and what ChatGPT said I said, and you're like, then we're in trouble, right? And then you start making deep fakes, and then everybody's confused. But the reason we have all these things, the reason we have like tons of classes hosted on Facebook and YouTube, and and the website can kind of guide you how to get everywhere if you don't know, is so when you have questions, you could look it up. Of course, you wouldn't know where to look it up, but you could ask AI, Jillian Yatra, try this. AI won't bite you if you try this. Where does Mahatma Das speak? Is there a lecture in which Mahatma Das speaks about this? You could try that. And it said, yeah, he speaks about this in his lecture on spiritual bypassing or his forgiveness course. Try that out. But as AI gets more sophisticated, which it's getting more sophisticated even from the time we started this class till now, it's going to be very good at finding things out and helping gurus not have to answer 1,000 letters, because most everything that I'm asked, if not everything, I've already written about it or given a class about it. Of course, it may not apply to your exact situation, so you may have to write me but why don't you try this first? You can get a free version of ChatGPT and then just ask it a question. Where does Prabhupada talk about this? Where is that? It's really good. You can just ask, where did Prabhupada say this? It'll tell you, where in the Bhagavatam does it say this? What's that verse? So we can use it properly. Well, they'll listen what Abhinav says. First, we'll listen what Julian Yatra says. I'm a bit scared using AI for that reason. What if it twists Prabhupada's words, or people use it to do so? People will use it to do so. I don't, if it's actually quoting Prabhupada, you can kind of tell. And if you doubt it, just, don't take it. But let's listen to Abhinav. I kind of did that today, and ChatGPT answered 80% similar way like you. Self-care, compassion aspects more, yeah. But you can say, what does Mahatma Das say about self-care? And I don't know if it would be inaccurate, because they'd have to search everything I said about it. Maybe the way they explain it might be a little strange, but if you understand basically what I've said, you would know if that was correct or not. So, I would categorize a stupid question as a question which is common sense, number one. If you use your common sense, you wouldn't ask the question. And if I say the answer to your question is use common sense, you'd probably think, yeah, that's the best answer. So that's one kind of stupid question. If it's just a common sense. Sometimes when you're a young devotee, you don't know if you can use your common sense, or you don't know if you have any left. You may have deposited it outside the temple doors and came in with no common sense. Sometimes devotees do that, right? They say, don't surrender your intelligence, surrender with your intelligence. So don't surrender your common sense, surrender with your common sense. So a stupid question could be something that your guru has spoken about 4,000 times, and somehow you didn't hear it. Or you heard it and you didn't understand it, and you go back and study it, or ask another devotee, did you hear that lecture? What do you think? Or sometimes you can just contemplate it or discuss it with a friend. And then when you just don't have an answer, then it's too confusing. Then you can ask and say, well, some devotees say this and some devotees say that. What do you say? You have to ask me what I say, because it's maybe controversial or something. So that's like, yeah, fine. But you have to consider every sentence you write me is 10 seconds of my time, which I could be using for eating gulab jamuns, but now I have to read your email. So you have to consider that. That's one gulab jamun he could have eaten if he wasn't reading my email. So you have to consider, everything you write, it should be of value. And it's not a problem if it's valuable. And you need to connect with your guru like that. But understand it's, that's time. So, you want to respect their time. And that's why most of us didn't write to Prabhupada. We wanted to respect his time. And it was only like about business that only he could answer, or some desperation situation. It's not that, you say, yeah, but nowadays we have more personal relationship with our guru, so, we want to tell him what we're doing, and, so many things. Yeah, that's natural. But sometimes you can say things in a few sentences instead of 4 paragraphs. So, like your 4-paragraph letter, put it to AI and say, could you make it shorter? I want to be merciful on my Guru. AI, can you make this letter shorter? It can make it very short. You can take a 4-paragraph letter and get it into one, I think. Can you turn this letter into a few bullet points? Yeah. Then you can rewrite the letter and say, Gurudev, I have a few points. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So you can take the time instead of your Guru taking the time. So there's some things to think. I think that answers the question. I mean, you can make it, how do I know my question is stupid? Well, if you're stupid, you may not know. That's a double whammy, right? But I think, in a sense, no question is stupid unless it's just common sense. But once you know your question just requires common sense, then you probably have a lot of other questions you could ask yourself. Yeah. So, Bader Soma, it's a special kind of Soma juice. It's called Bader brand of Soma juice, right? Bader, there's a devotee named Somadas. Did you know that? Soma is the moon. So Somaras is moon juice, basically moon water. It's an intoxication. Yeah, if you don't become Krishna conscious, you go to heaven in the next life. You can drink some. You feel really good. Yeah. But I won't. Butter Soma is going to get initiated in September, but I won't call him Somarasa. Don't worry. So he's making the point that sometimes it's not just about asking a question, but you want some connection with your spiritual master. Let him know what you're doing and like that. So that's definitely true. So Rangamaya Sri Govinda Das says, okay, everyone, if you have been sleepy or bored, it's going to be over now because we have a question about the Ritviks. And the Ritviks said, stay tuned, everyone. The controversy is just about to begin. Recently, the Ritviks are creating videos which are blaspheming some of Srila Prabhupada's disciples. What should be our stance on it? As an insignificant and neophyte devotee, how can we act? Or we should simply ignore their post. Please let us know your views on these disturbing posts. Well, I can tell you one of the thoughts that I have back long ago, when they were publishing a magazine solely dedicated to criticizing anyone they felt for that month's issue they should criticize. I was featured in 1 or 2 issues. Urmila, this was years ago, Urmila told me, he said, we're both featured in the latest issue of Back to Prabhupada. It's a Ritvik magazine. I said, what an honor. And they say, Mahatma Das says this and that, and he's so bad. And then everybody goes to my website and listens to all my lectures. And they go, that's not so bad. So good advertising, My first thought back in the day when that magazine came out, which was, it was so incredible. Could you imagine you're printing a magazine whose basic goal is to criticize Prabhupada's disciples? So that's like, huh? You're spending money to print a magazine because of course, in their world, everyone who's become a guru is like super offender to Prabhupada. So they have to let the world know, here are the offenders, all 80 of them or 100 or whatever there was. They don't do that magazine anymore. So my first reaction was, if you have a philosophy which is so true and correct, why would you need, in order to promote your philosophy and convince people, why would you need to pull other people down? That seems to me that you're saying our philosophy does not have enough substance on its own And the only way that we could effectively convince people, or one of the ways we will effectively, or try to effectively convince people, is to pull down all the people that we're against. My initial intuitive gut reaction was, you must have a really weak philosophy and somewhat insecure about your own philosophy if you need to do that. And you will notice, if you haven't already noticed, that whoever is defending Diksha, that you need Diksha, rare or ever will they criticize individually a Ritvik. They might criticize the philosophy, but they won't criticize a particular person. It's rare, at least from what I've seen. That says something also, doesn't it? Like there's some integrity on the part of devotees when they don't criticize. And there's some integrity on part of their philosophy when they don't have to do ad hominem attacks on individuals. Because when you're attacking an individual, it's kind of like you're saying, I don't have a philosophy, but I can bamboozle some people by just pointing out how bad you are. And if I can point out how bad you are, your philosophy must be bad, even though I can't defeat it. Even though I can't really officially, academically defeat you, but I can say you're stupid and offending Prabhupada and your guruship is offensive, and that would establish my philosophy that you shouldn't do that. So I think sometimes Rangamaya, you have better things to do than meditate on people who like to criticize Prabhupada's disciples. So that's one approach. Another approach is to defend them, but then they'll attack you. So, if you want to go there, if you try to defend those people they're blaspheming, then you'll be next in line you'll be in their magazine next. Who is this fool Rangamaya? Thinks, he's got a Diksha guru, he's crazy, he's got no brain, doesn't he understand? Prabhupada never appointed any. So then you'll become very popular. If you want to become popular, go on the internet. And Govinda Das, I think, is a disciple of Radhanath Swami. He just made a video on what's wrong with the philosophy, not the people. And he made the point, we're not about criticizing the people. That's not what we want to do. It's a very good point. He made that in the beginning. And there are many others who've made videos both for and against it. And, it's good entertainment, I think. But it's good, it's good for your entertainment in the sense it helps you, like, if people are attacking what we believe, then you have to, understand more clearly what we believe and why we believe it. So, it can cause you to go back and study Guru Tattva more carefully. They say this and they quote Prabhupada, but Prabhupada says this and that doesn't seem to support what they're saying, etc. So, number one, don't criticize them. Number two, if you want to get involved, just get involved to strengthen your faith in the Parampara and Prabhupada's books. I think we all know how many times Prabhupada talked about Parampara in his books, and how many times he talked about the disciple becomes the next guru, and then the disciple of that guru becomes the next guru. And Prabhupada said, I want all my disciples to be guru. And of course it's elaborately explained because it's the tradition eternally. So it's going to be explained in every Shastra everywhere. So there's no support for it in Shastra. So you can study like that, for yourself, to just, use those arguments and controversies to strengthen your own faith. Somebody told me, who was in a brahmachari in the Bangalore temple at one point. He joined there, so he didn't even know Ritvik from non-Ritvik, but he left before he got initiated. Because they told him, you're going to get initiated by Prabhupada, and he said, that doesn't make sense. And he left. I said, what do you think is the future of ISKCON? And of Ritvik, he said, well, it leaves such a vacuum in relationship that I can't see that it would go on, because 500 years from now, you're 500 years away from Prabhupada, and it's kind of like, it's if the only relationship you have in Christianity is with Jesus, and there's no other Sangha. Maybe it's a little different now because Prabhupada was here and his disciples are here, but when there's no more Prabhupada disciples, then it's like you're going to be hearing about Prabhupada second hand, third hand, fourth hand, fifth hand, 100 years later, 500. He doesn't think it'll last because it lacks personalism. Sometimes there's a saying that the difference, the book, Srimad Bhagavatam, is called Bhagavat. And, I have my hand up. Oh, this is like AI, look at that. So I have to talk and it'll lower my hand. Okay, I spoke, you can put see, look at that. I'm an AI expert, did you know that? I went like this, and my hand goes up. I'm giving blessings, all right. You're all getting blessings. You will lose your hair, you will drop out of college, and you'll have no money. Those are my blessings. Everybody says, give me my blessings. I'm like, you're going to be a college dropout if I give you my blessings. I'm not going to have any money. You're going to be eating a diet that has no taste. You want those blessings? Yeah. Be careful who you ask for blessings. Yeah. As we were saying, you can use it to strengthen your own conviction, but this debate has been going on for 40 years or something. Very few people are going from one side to the other. I know a few have left the Ritvik. I don't know if any or how many have in the last 30 years gone from Diksha to Ritvik. But you want to hear something really interesting? What do you think is more effective for your spiritual life? An initiation ceremony that takes an hour, or your whole life of getting instruction in Shastra? What do you think is going to help you more? The answer is obvious, right? So, who's more important in your life? The person who performed the ceremony or the person who's guiding you? And usually it's the same person who gives you Diksha. Not always, but just for the sake of discussion. Without speaking practically, just for the sake of discussion, we can say, the person who's giving me instructions in how to be Krishna conscious is the most important person in my life, whoever that person or persons are. So certainly Prabhupada's one of the most important. And the people instructing me are the most important. So sometimes you have a Diksha Guru, but you don't see him, and there are other people who are more important to you because they're the ones who are guiding you. So that means that the Siksha is more important than the Diksha, right? Isn't it? Yes? Yes or yes? Yeah. I mean, just speaking logically, practically, without having to be a big pandit or anything, just practically, if I ask you, who is the most important person in your life, you would say the most important person in my life is the one who's helping me become Krishna conscious the most. That would be the most important person, right? Whoever it is. Could be your Diksha Guru, could be your Siksha Guru, could be Prabhupada, could be all of them, right? So normally, if I said, who's the most important person in your life, your first answer would be like, I better say my Diksha Guru, or Yamaraj is going to knock me in the head with a hammer right now, or a lightning bolt. Or Indra might help him, it's going to be a disaster. But that's not necessarily the right answer. It might be, because if it is, it is. But if it's not the right answer. Because, you may never see your Diksha Guru, ever again, and maybe you're listening to classes given by so-and-so, and he's helping you more. So it's just, it's not an offense, it's just, this is the person who's helping me the most. So he's your Siksha Guru, and that is backed up. That's backed up by our Shastra. And usually for most devotees, it's like many Siksha Gurus, as you develop. You hear, you take a class, a course taught by this one, that one, and so it's like you're just benefiting from so many. But the point is, the argument of Ritvik, non-Ritvik is over Diksha. That's what it's about, right? You can't or can't give Diksha. You can give Siksha. You can be someone's Siksha guru, but you can't give Diksha. So it's an argument over Diksha, which is not as important as Siksha. Isn't that interesting? Like, you're blowing up this big thing about Diksha when anybody can be a Siksha guru. No problem. Ritviks have no problem. ISKCON has no problem. Any qualified person could be a Siksha guru. Take you back to Godhead. You know, he can have hundreds of thousands of disciples he never initiates. He can let someone else initiate if he doesn't want to initiate. And they all can go back to Godhead. And Prabhupada even told people, you're going back to Godhead, and they were not initiated. So, you know, that just adds to the point. Okay, Shastra says you should get initiated. But the line of teachers is called the Siksha disciplic succession. And that's the most important. So both sides are arguing over Diksha, which is something less important, which shouldn't even be an argument. Like, maybe you could argue about the qualifications of a Siksha guru. That might be more productive, don't you think? That they're arguing over the qualifications of a person who's giving a name and chanting on the beads, and who may not even be the most important. So why would we if we want to make a big deal, we should make a big deal about the Siksha gurus. Like, who's your Siksha guru? You know, like, how qualified are they? Because your Diksha guru may be this or that, and maybe, you know, for many devotees, they don't even see their Diksha gurus or talk to them. They have too many disciples. They're different parts of the world. So they have somebody else, maybe that's more important for them. So we don't have a problem with them being a Siksha guru, and you know, you can even have a Vyas Puja for a Siksha guru, and, you know, throw flowers at them and bathe their feet and, you know, serve them and give them things, and, you know. But as long as they don't give you Diksha, they're cool. And the Ritviks will love you. But as soon as you have that ceremony, then you're a demon. That's interesting, don't you think? So it's all about Diksha. It's all about something that is not as important as Siksha. And no one has a problem with whoever gives Siksha. It's interesting, you know. So these are the kinds of things that you can meditate on. Ragamaya, Ranga, Rangamaya, Sri Govinda, Das, Das, Anudas. These are things you can meditate on. And you can be stimulated by it rather than agitated by it. Because you know, just help you look at our philosophy, help you look at Guru Tattva better. So that's what, but, I was going to say something I didn't say. There's a saying that I've heard, I don't know if you've heard this, but I've heard it said, maybe it came from one source. The book Bhagavad is Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita is book Bhagavad. All Shastra we can say is book Bhagavad. And there's the person Bhagavad. That's the Siksha or Diksha guru is the person Bhagavad. They're both Bhagavad, or God, of God, godly. And so when asked, what's the difference between a guru and a book? And they say the book is passive, the guru is active. Like the guru can tell the disciple, don't do that. That's wrong. You're going left. You should go right. The book can do that in a general way. So the way this is explained is the difference between the book Bhagavad and the person Bhagavad is the person can take you by the ear and pull you. I guess they do that in India, like kids or something. Come here. Instead of the hand, they take the ear. You've been a bad boy. Come here. They do that. Rangamaya, grab you by the ear. So that's an Indian saying. To like say that they can correct you, right? You grab by there, we're going to correct you. Go sit in the corner and don't have lunch. And write down on a piece of paper, I'm an idiot 10,000 times, or something like that. You're going to get corrected. So the person Bhagavad can correct you. The book Bhagavad can't. So how is Prabhupada, who basically is the book Bhagavad, really, But non-living book Bhagavat, how's he going to correct you? How's he going to pull you by the ear? But the living guru can pull you by the ear. And if your Diksha guru goes, or your main Siksha guru goes, then who's going to pull you by the ear? So Ritviks, do they have someone to pull them by the ear? And if they do, that person's more important than Prabhupada in many ways, because they're alive, and Prabhupada can't see you walking off the cliff. They can, and they save you. And of course, it's because of Prabhupada that we're all saved. And it's only because of Prabhupada that the Siksha or Diksha Guru can save you. But practically speaking, in that moment, you were saved by that person. And so if you go for Ritvik, you're that person. Who is that person that you want to give your life to? It's just Prabhupada, who will be more of a vague figure for you in the future. Not just Prabhupada, but the person that is right there, you can offer service to. And so you say, oh, okay, well, we have our Siksha Gurus. Like, yeah. So factually speaking, those Siksha Gurus are really more important for you in your life. And that sounds like offensive to say, doesn't it? But is it true? You know, you say, Prabhupada, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. But in the back of your mind, but it's that devotee I met that saved me. On the ground that I met at the airport, who gave me that book. He's the one who actually did it. But he gave me Prabhupada's book. So Prabhupada, it was your books that saved me. But if that devotee weren't there, I wouldn't have your books. So he actually saved me, right? So it's that person on the ground that's interacting with you is saving you. It doesn't minimize it. Prabhupada glorifies him. That he made such a devotee, right? What do you think? Yes? No? Maybe? We have another question from the studio audience.
My question, Prabhupada, he emphasized his spiritual master, his Diksha Guru.
Yeah.
Did he have Shiksha Gurus? Because he also didn't have...
Yeah, he said, she's asking if Prabhupada had Siksha Guru. He said Sridhar Maharaj was his Siksha Guru. They used to discuss Krishna consciousness. He had great respect for him. You will find amongst God brothers, Prabhupada's disciples, they'll say, you know, so-and-so is my Siksha Guru. Like when I don't know what to do, I ask him. I call him up and say, what should I do? So they have faith. They have faith. Maybe when I don't know what to do in a particular area, I would ask this God brother or God sister. Another area, I'd ask another one. So that's there. So, can you write Gandhari? You have her? Because I may have the dates wrong. That if we're going to have this, or maybe she wrote me on my phone. I don't know what my phone is. If we're going to have this
Hare
celebration.
Krishna.
You know about it, Chaitanya?
Yes, it's right after the class ends, and she wanted to check if you will have time just for an hour or longer than that.
Yeah, I planned 2 hours maximum. And it'll be on this channel, so we end like we end 5 minutes before. Is that correct, or it's his own channel? Okay.
It's here. Yes.
Okay. So I was, I don't know, I think yesterday, or I was saying, at some point I was saying that, I think, no, Fabiana or someone was asking, how do you know who your guru is? And I was saying that for me, like Prabhupada was such an inspiration for me to surrender. I just wanted to surrender to him. And so I was saying, if you meet somebody and you feel like, I just want to surrender to him, that like makes your spiritual life so easy, because it's natural. There's love, there's affection, and bhakti is all about love and affection. And you take that person away. There's no person that you want to surrender to. It's just, oh, I want to surrender to Prabhupada. I have that for Prabhupada. Of course, we should have that for Prabhupada, but the intensity is so much greater when there's a person right in front of you that you can serve. And that's the whole principle, right, of guru-disciple. And so if you pull that out of the equation, that's bad. That is not good. It's not, I don't think it's sustainable. And that was, I mean, you can say, well, they're doing so much. Yeah, they have a lot of love for Prabhupada, no doubt. And they probably feel that inspiration, but still, that person you can surrender to personally, what an inspiration that is. And then another thing, Rangamaya, is that they say these gurus are bogus. So my question to them is, can bogus gurus create pure devotees? And they'll say no. Can bogus gurus create strict devotees, good devotees? Well, that's the question. Can bogus gurus create good devotees? Maybe they say yes. But where in the Shastra does it say bogus gurus create good devotees? There's no support for that, right? Have you ever read that? Find a guru, bogus or not. As long as you're sincere, you'll be good to go. No, it doesn't say that. Find a bona fide spiritual master in disciplic succession who's seen the truth, and then the definition of the guru. He knows Shastra, he can teach it, and he follows it. He gives an example. That's the person, right? So, if this person who's bogus has disciples that are good devotees, that are surrendered, how could he be bogus? This doctor is bogus. He just cures all his patients, but he's bogus because he went to a bogus college or something. Or the professor never told him to be a doctor. He just got his degree, but he was never told you can do it, so he's bogus. No, but he's cured people of cancer, he's cured people of all these diseases that nobody can cure, No, he's bogus. That is probably the weakest argument in the whole thing. Because if he's bogus, his disciples should be bogus. Shouldn't they? Now, we look at the Ritviks and we say, you're connected with Prabhupada. Fantastic. We're not going to say you're not pure devotees. We might say you've misunderstood Prabhupada. But we're not going to say you can't be advanced because we don't like your philosophy, because you have Prabhupada's mercy, so of course. And so, but you have a bogus guru, so how can you get Prabhupada's mercy? Because your guru is obliviating that mercy. And, so how did you ever become Krishna conscious? But you did, so, and your guru, there's so many disciples of Prabhupada's disciples doing amazing things, very advanced, right? How do they become advanced? They could say, well, it's Prabhupada's mercy, but. So that means Prabhupada's mercy is coming through their gurus. So is that a problem? If you get initiated, the mercy just, Anyway, hopefully that kept you awake for the last half hour. Now we can get back to business at hand. Is that okay, Rangamai? Yeah. It makes for good, discussions over breakfast or something, or for your own edification, to build your own faith in your guru. And to understand Guru Tattva. It's helpful. And even to pontificate on how two divergent groups could coexist within an organization. That's also a discussion. Maybe it's possible, maybe it's not, but it's a discussion. So Fabiana says, I learned that whoever makes their business to criticize the loving service of devotees will be reborn as a Yamaduta. Wow, I didn't know that. Where'd you hear that? But I never heard that one. And I better ask forgiveness for all the people I've criticized. But it is said, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, whoever you criticize, you get their bad karma and you give them your good karma. So, I would really appreciate all of you criticizing me because I got some bad karma to get rid of and I could use your good karma. So if someone, that should be our new answer. If someone says, Prabhu, what do you do when you're criticized? You are so fortunate. You just got all their good karma and they took all your bad karma. Tell them to criticize you some more. You'll get purified. That's amazing. But, the thing that probably bothers me more about Ritviks than what they teach is the fact that their philosophy seems to either support, maybe the word's inspire. It seems to inspire Vaishnava Aparad. And that's a strange philosophy, don't you think? You have a philosophy that's inspiring people to criticize some of the most dear disciples of Prabhupada. There's got to be something wrong with that somewhere. And I just don't understand why people who ascribe to that philosophy don't see that. They're saying that Srila Prabhupada's leading most dear disciples killed him. Hare Krishna. I mean, if that's not blasphemous, I don't know, Prabhu, what's blasphemy? When you say Prabhupada's dearmost disciples who dedicated their life to him or would die for him, killed him because they wanted to become guru, that's a definition of blasphemy. You're turning pure devotees into monsters. And then because they did that in your mind, then you're on a campaign to expose them and expose what they did, even though your proof is very shady. So I find that really interesting. Please do not ascribe to a philosophy that encourages you to criticize devotees. Don't hang around with people that encourage you to criticize. Don't encourage others to criticize. I mean, like, if we have learned anything from Prabhupada, it's to be a little humble, right? Isn't it? Like anything from the Shastras, to be humble. First item of knowledge, humility. Can't go back to guided if you're not humble. You have to be humble to chant the holy name of the Lord. And I exist to criticize some of the dearmost disciples of Prabhupada. And I've got a philosophy to support it. That is so weird. Don't you think? And that has always stood out in my mind. It's always stood out in my mind. Say, wait a minute, this philosophy is inspiring blasphemy. A philosophy that inspires us to humbly serve the Vaishnavas, though, that's a good philosophy. I'll buy that one. But a philosophy that inspires you to criticize, well, what kind of people would like that? I don't know if you know this, but if you're interested in getting a lot of views on your YouTube or Facebook, just start criticizing devotees and criticizing ISKCON. You'll at least get 3,000, for sure. Make a deep fake video and say, my name is, Govinda Dizzy Dasi, and I joined in, 1926, and make a video just, saying Prabhupada told me this, and I saw this, and he said that, and this is bogus, and that. You'll get so many people going, yeah, ISKCON is, I wanted to do a social experiment and actually make up stuff about ISKCON that's completely untrue, and have all these buy-ins. Yeah, I knew ISKCON was messed up. Yeah, and yeah, everything you said, Prabhu, I knew that already. I've heard it before, and I made it all up. I'm not going to do that, but if I did, that's what would happen. Isn't that sad? And in the future, there will be plenty of deep fakes, with people that look like the real person saying things the real person would never say. And then we'll come to the day when there'll be deep fakes of Prabhupada, and the deep fakes will be so good you can't even tell it's not Prabhupada. And getting him to say things like, I never wanted anyone to initiate, I only wanted Ritviks. Can you imagine in the future somebody doing that? I can imagine that. Hare Krishna. Chuta Gopi posted it on Instagram. It made an impression. Can you find out where it's from? Well, everyone, if it's true, now you know how to become a Yamaduta. But I have to warn you, Yamadutas are ugly. And they have to do their service is not so nice. But you get Yamaraj's association, that's good. But maybe he'll punish you before he hires you, I don't know. Kamalochan says, one amazing thing you said about Ritvik, their philosophy is based on letters and no reference in scriptures, whereas living Diksha Guru philosophy is based on scriptures. Yeah, and it's a simple point. But what makes it like we have a lawyer here, Fabiana. So I'm going to court and I'm saying, my case is based on the fact that there's a letter written by Tamal Krishna Maharaj, which Srila Prabhupada signed, that says, henceforward there will be Ritvik, these people will be my Ritviks and they will initiate on my behalf. That will be my disciples. Okay, then there's the debate. What does henceforward mean? Does it mean for the time being or does it mean forever? Well, you can debate that, go to the dictionary, but the dictionary is not a legal entity, so, what did the person mean? Well, Fabiana, you can be my lawyer because I have a video of this person saying, when I said henceforth, I meant for the time being, I didn't mean all the way into the future. The other party is saying he meant, saying henceforward means forever. And this person's saying, but that's not what I meant. Who's going to win the case when the judge hears that? I think it's like, duh, it's going to be thrown out of court because the person who your whole philosophy is resting on the word henceforward, and the person who wrote the word says, I didn't mean forever, I meant for now, until things change. And you're not going to, the people on the other side want to hire you, and you're like, are you stupid? Why waste your money? You can not win this case. Of course, they did win the case, but it wasn't a case of philosophy. But so, as Kamal Lochan is rightly saying, you can go through our books and find millions of quotes about the importance of Guru. We all know that. And the importance of taking shelter, not only taking shelter, but also taking Diksha from a living Guru, approach a Guru. Of course, they say Prabhupada's still living. Yeah, that's true. But Shastra means a walking and talking living Guru that you can see and talk to. Can't you talk to Prabhupada? Aren't you pure enough? No, in a physical form. So there's no verse, there's no history, there's nothing anywhere that says that has an instance of someone taking initiation from a guru who wasn't present, unless they had a dream and it happened in a dream, or the guru appeared mystically. But as a general principle, it doesn't exist. And what exists is you approach a living guru. And so we know there's thousands of references in all shastras to that. And all that is going to be eliminated by one word henceforward, which doesn't even mean forever. It means for the time being. Like, hello, that's not a strong argument. Oh, they have other arguments, of course, but it rests heavily on that. Of course, you could say, if they said, for the time being, they could say, well, Prabhupada never said you should become guru. Yeah, okay. Show me the quote, show me the letter, give me the recording where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati told Prabhupada to initiate disciples. You don't have one. So why aren't you going to Bhaktisiddhanta? And then show me the quote from Gorkashore Das Babaji where he told him to make disciples. He told him, don't go to Calcutta. That's where he made all his disciples. So like, hello, you need a personal instruction. When everywhere in his books he says make disciples, his letters it says when I go you make disciples. But you need a letter to say make disciples. Yeah. When Prabhupada made his first disciple was after he took sannyas. Did you know that? You know the story? He took sannyas and and the godbrothers of Keshava Maharaj were complaining that Bhaktivedanta Swami wants to make disciples. And so that came up to Keshava Maharaj, and Prabhupada said, you've given me sannyas, you got me married, but you won't let me have children. That doesn't make sense. So it was like in Gaudiya Math, it seems from this, it's, as far as I understand, at least when you take sannyas, it's like, okay, now you will take disciples. Yeah. Because that's basically what Prabhupada was saying. I've taken sannyas, so now I can make disciples. Who told Prabhupada to make disciples? It's a tradition. What did Bhaktisiddhanta tell Prabhupada to do? He told him to preach. Well, you know what happens when you preach? People want to become your disciple. It's like, so the order to preach is the order to make disciples. If you choose to do so, then you're qualified. So, yes, Hare Krishna. A philosophy which is based on blaspheming blaspheming devotees. That's strange philosophy. Isn't that a strange philosophy? Don't you think? Hare Krishna. Anyway, all of you who have gurus and or are initiated, it's hard for you to understand this philosophy unless you're like frustrated with your guru and you hate ISKCON and you think they have poisoned Prabhupada. And this is the place to go because you'll get support there. And like I was saying, if you become an ISKCON hater and a guru hater, you'll be quite popular with the other ISKCON and guru haters. Because there's a lot of them out there. And I've seen it and I followed it. And people like who are frustrated with ISKCON, they like anti-ISKCON stuff. You know, it's almost like it doesn't even matter what they're saying. As long as it's anti-ISKCON, I'll eat it. It's nectar to me, you know, and that's unfortunate. It really is. But that's human nature, and that's what it is. But we're, you know, we still respect. We respect everyone who's trying to be a devotee. We don't dislike anyone because they don't like us or we don't like their philosophy. We, you know, if I am going to criticize someone because they're criticizing me, then it's like, okay, we're both bad off, right? We're both in trouble. So you have to be careful. Okay, so I think I have to leave, and all non-Russian speaking, all people who are not, I guess, born in Russia or Ukraine have to leave also. I think we're having a little party for the Russians and Ukrainians. And then Chaitanya Leela is like, can I come? Well, you were born in Russia, so you can come if you want. If you're born in Russia or Ukraine, you can come. Estonia, Lithuania, no, you can't. Former Soviet Union, no, you can't. You have to be born in Russia or Ukraine, then you can come. Right? So we're just finishing class for all of you who are just coming in. We have defeated the Ritviks, and they're all going to come back to ISKCON now, begging for forgiveness, telling us how they made a huge mistake. So Hare Krishna to all of you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Hari Hari Bol, Hari Hari Bol. So I'm just going to stay here and say goodbye to all of you and hello to all the